too get to introduce a speaker for the last time this year. So I hope you all have enjoyed this year's speakers. I know I did, and I'm going to be pledging $50 to the foundation, $49 of that towards the 49 speakers that I booked this year, and $1 for Denise for good luck.
You've done a great job.
So we'll save the best for last. Right?
I was going to
Lindsay?
say that.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Before we get to Lindsay though, with Kim here and Norm and Carrie, we could probably have our Reams meeting right now. So as soon as we're done with this, we can take care of that business and don't have to worry about it tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you all. Lindsay Mackey, good morning, afternoon, Lindsay. Thanks for being here. Is the Director of Development for the Burns Health Education Foundation in New York, PA. In her role at Burns Health Education, she works to strategically expand opportunities, enhance growth as the organization moves into its second quarter century of service. Prior to her current role, Lindsay spent 6.5 years at Girl Scouts in the heart of central Pennsylvania, and also previously worked at Capital Area Girls on the Run as their development manager. She is a current member, so she is a visiting Rotarian from the Mechanicsburg North Rotary Club, and she's also a proud mom of a 4-year-old. Please welcome Lindsay.
I have to say, I think our club has stolen quite a few things from this club. First being, we also do, and for our 50-50, the drawing of the cards, but we only have 13 left.
Oh,
So we're coming in hot on that. And also, it is my understanding that you all do a fantasy football league. Yes.
And hockey.
Well, I spearheaded the efforts for Mechanicsburg North to do fantasy football. We had a lot of fun, although this year we are going to do an in-person draft, so I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Burns Health Education, and before I get into that, by a show of hands, anybody have familiarity with Burns in any way, shape, or form? You've been, you know what a little bit about what we do, okay, great. I should start here with me. It's always weird to see yourself. So I actually recently have a title change. I'm now the Senior Director of Development, so I need to update this. Have fun. I am a Central Pennsylvania transplant. I grew up 45 minutes north of Scranton, Pennsylvania, in a very small town called West Nicholson. Nicholson itself is not big enough to have a West, but they did it. And so we, my husband and I relocated in 2016 for a job opportunity down here, and we've been here ever since. Northeastern PA is an interesting place. My favorite story is that I grew up in an area where my neighbor would call, not to invite me over for a picnic or anything, but to alert us that he would be using dynamite in his stone quarry, and so the house may shake a little bit, but it's okay. I am a member of the Rotary Club of Mechanicsburg North. I joined that club about a month into my time at Burns Health Education because the organization itself is really committed to what Rotary does and encouraged me to find a Rotary Club. It was not my first interaction with Rotary. I was a founding member of the Rotaract Club of Keystone College in La Plume, Pennsylvania, and traveled to the International Conference in Montreal in 2010, if I have my years right, and so was excited to find my way back to Rotary as a professional. And I am a proud mom. I have a 4-year-old. His name is Graham. He keeps me on my toes all of the time. Even when I'm not here, our daycare sends app updates all of the time, so I know what he's doing pretty frequently. So, if you have familiarity or you have been, this may look and should look pretty familiar. This is the exterior of our building at 515 South George Street in York. We are catty corner from, across the street from Junior Achievement. Crispus Attucks is behind us. We're very close to some well-span buildings, so that's the kind of area we are in York. We purchased this building from Stettler Dodge, I believe in the late 80s is what I go with. And we rehabbed that building for the first time and opened our doors in 1995. So we are 27 years old. We will turn 28 in the fall, so it's pretty exciting. And just a little bit of a closer up shot. We use this kind of as, if someone is coming to visit us, we always say just look for the red doors. The double set of red doors, it's bright enough that you're going to notice it, and most people are just happy that there's a parking lot in York that they can use when they come to visit us. So, as you're entering into our building and into our lobby, this is what you would have seen if you had come just a week ago, but as I left today, we are in the process of redoing the entire lobby. That rubber flooring was $20 27, no, maybe. I don't know if it's the entirety. Anyway, close to 27 years old, it's totally ripped up. We're getting a new reception desk, the walls are being changed, so it's gonna be a whole new world in just a few months, as long as things go well with construction and the supply chain and all of those fun things. And so our mission is to educate and inspire people of all ages to make healthy choices. That has been the mission of Burns Health Education since 1995. It has not changed a single syllable, ever. That is the mission of the organization. When I think broad scope, what does Burns actually do? There are really two things that come to my mind. The first is that our team creates curriculum that is aligned to state standards, it is aligned to national education standards across the entire country, and then they deliver that curriculum primarily to students through schools, also to adults, and we do that all year long. So people will often say, what does your year look like? Very frequently, we follow the academic year. So the fall will ramp up that program delivery, and it kind of slows down over the summer. But we work with Girl Scout troops, we work with Boy Scout troops, we do all kinds of great work outside of the traditional school setting so that we can continue to reach students. If you're thinking about our work, we have about 52 programs focused on youth, and we start as young as pre-K. So we work with pre-K, 4-year-olds typically, but we've done some 3-year-old programming, all the way up through seniors in high school, and with adults. Adults, you're looking at about 30 programs, and that varies on like workplace wellness. It will vary on some parenting programs and things like that. I'm looking over here, and it's also here. Look at this. There's so many places. I think it's important to share that we do relevant and important topics. So when I think back to the start of Burns in 1995, we were doing a lot of substance abuse prevention work. At that time, a lot of that work was centered on tobacco in the mid-90s. Focusing on anti-smoking, kicking tobacco, nicotine, all of that. And while that's still important to what we do, it's shifted. And so the newest substance abuse program we've created is called Clear the Air, and it's only about vaping. It is the risks associated with vaping, all of the health, things you can understand about your health and how vapes can impact that. And for me, perhaps as naive as I am, that program is designed for 6th through 12th grade students. And so in my head, I'm thinking, we're probably doing that a lot in high schools. We're doing that mostly in middle schools. It's mostly your middle school kids who are vaping in class, vaping in the bathroom, on campus, across campus, and we heard from principals and teachers, and they said, what are you doing to help the students understand the risks of vaping? We had sort of talked about it for years, but they said, we need more, and can you do it for the whole, that's all we want you to talk about is vaping. And maybe I'm naive, but for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, that feels a little shocking to me. So when I think of relevant and important, that's a big one to me. I already talked about the curriculum. And the other thing I'm proud of is that in 27 years, we've delivered over 7.75 million health education lessons. So really a wide breadth of what we've done. We deliver this curriculum in 3 ways. You can always come to us at Burns. That's kind of the traditional way that it had always been done, that students were always coming to us as a field trip. Works really well. We have these fantastic learning spaces, but there's a thing called a budget. And we understand that it's not always financially feasible for schools to get to us, either by travel time, by bus driver shortages, all of those things. So many years ago, we made the decision that we would take our show on the road, and we go out to schools. So schools will reach out to us to say, we want you to deliver this program to these students, will you come to us? And that could entail that we're set up in like a large group instruction room, or we're going classroom to classroom, but we're delivering that same curriculum. And then lastly, we webcast, and we've webcast for over a decade, and thank goodness, because it got us through COVID. And we did a ton of webcasting through COVID when students were in a building, or if they were still at home, we were able to reach them. Logistically, for some districts, it didn't make sense. There were some school districts who would say to us, hey, we miss you so much, our students just can't figure out Zoom well enough and the way to act on Zoom to allow for us to allow guest presenters to come in. So we are very much past Zoom at this point. We're back in person very heavily. We have some schools that still say, hey, that makes sense for us, but that's like one locally. So we're much more back in person. This is my favorite picture. picture. So if you think about Burns in a routine year, we are in various counties throughout the Commonwealth. So we are pretty well known throughout South Central Pennsylvania. When I think South Central, I think York, Lancaster, Lebanon, Adams, Perry, Dauphin, Cumberland. That's probably the region I would consider. Is there room for growth in those counties? Absolutely. That's part of my job, is I get to go out and meet people and share what we're doing and see if there's a way to get us into new areas. But we are pretty well known, I would say, across that region and serving students throughout those regions. But the thing that I think is super interesting is that we'll go beyond those counties into, we were in Lackawanna County about last year or 2 years ago. We've served students in Erie and Bloomsburg, California, Florida, Texas. We have gone far beyond South Central PA. And every year, we webcast to remote areas of Canada, remote provinces of Canada. Nunavut is my favorite example. Nunavut, when they first started to work with us, they said, we want your program, The Dating Game. And The Dating Game is a program for high school age students who might be in their first relationship. And how do we instill the right behaviors or skills to have healthy relationships? Healthy boundary setting, healthy communication. Do you need to have your phone location on all the time to tell people where, snap, all of that great stuff. We went to deliver it and we couldn't, because the examples we used in our curriculum didn't make sense. Because I will tell you, you are not going to a movie in Nunavut, Canada. There's not a movie theater to be found. Okay, so we changed what we had designed to meet their needs. So we talked about fishing and going for walks and maybe you're on the boat and those types of things. But if we're going to impact students, they have to see themselves in what they're learning. And so for Canada and for Nunavut, we couldn't talk about movie theaters. They would have tuned us out pretty immediately. So I talked about Girl Scouts and Boy Scout partnerships. That was my first introduction to Burns as a Girl Scout staff member. Burns aligned their health curriculum to meet Girl Scout badge requirements for all levels. And we did the same for Boy Scouts. So we have that aligned for achievements and merit badges, and we reevaluate that as new ones come out so that we can serve those students in that way. We work with public schools, private schools, parochial, charter, homeschool, the whole gamut. It's a ton of fun. It's always different. I think another thing that people might be interested about is the range of the work that we do. So every year our team compiles a ton of data. Well, we often ask, how do you know what you do is effective? Very frequently, we are a supplement to what's being taught in the classroom. I am not here to say that health education isn't taught in a school, because it is. But there's often a chance for us to be an addition, a supplement, or something to drive home those concepts. So we stretch a wide range of different things. We track every program that we deliver. We track the number of students we're serving. We're tracking the schools, the buildings, all of that. So of course we track what are the programs that are popular. The number one program year after year is called Grow and Know. It's a human development program, and it is about puberty. It is that many people remember us for they call it the talk, but we're really only talking about the changes that your bodies are going to go through. About fourth grade year here. What are you going to experience the next few years? What kind of changes are you going to undergo? You're going to grow in height and all kinds of different things. But you can go through and look, and we've got a lot of social and emotional health. Oral health is really big for young students. Substance abuse prevention, safety, all of that stuff. But those are the 10 right now, and I can certainly share this if anyone has an interest of kind of what we're doing and what is the most important, or most requested, I suppose, not important, the most requested that we do. In our Safety First program for pre-K, we teach students how, when, and why to call 911. And we just redid that learning space, and we have a brand new screen that looks just like an iPhone. And so when they're with us, they can slide the screen up, they learn about the emergency call button, they walk through a script with a 911 operator. It's not a live operator, obviously, but it's some really cool work. Okay, I talked about kind of the past a little bit, talked about where we are currently, but I think it's important that you know that we have a vision for where Burns can and will go in the future. So I joined the team in June of 2020, and my boss looked at me and said, "Are you ready to do a capital campaign?" Okay, sure I am. And so we did. In September of 20, we launched a capital campaign. The goal of that campaign was $4 million. It was the first time we were ever going to look at those learning labs. We called them teaching theaters, we now call them labs. Look at them to say, it's time for some changes. And so the whole purpose of that campaign was to redo those learning spaces. It started in September of 2020, it concluded about June of 2021, and we were successful. So if you ever want to visit, I would put this out to all of you, I would welcome anybody to come visit us at any time. Maybe give me the summer for the lobby to be done, because right now it's very dusty. A lot of noise when you're tearing up rubber flooring. A lot. And so we have brand new spaces to show off and share. We added a STEM lab. So in our basement, we now have a space that we have dedicated to STEM and STEM education, which we've always done. And STEM education is in a lot of that health work, but how can we have a dedicated STEM lab for students that they could come and just have a STEM experience related to health, or to do an add-on. So we've added that space, and we have added a sixth theater, which is our social and emotional health theater. These are some pretty cool digital renderings of what those labs look like, and that is the truth of what they do look like. So you can see, and if you can't see, I can leave this up or put it back up. We have our social and emotional theater in the top left, our STEM lab with the bright green tables. On the right, we have our substance abuse prevention lab. I should also tell you, I get so excited I forget things. When I say a lab, there's a title, because typically if you're with us and on our space, you're seeing that specific topic in that lab. So each lab can really host all of our programs, but there's unique things in each one that are special to that lab that could be used for that curriculum. So in substance abuse prevention, we have a huge brain on the wall as we talk students through the risks associated with using substances and which parts of your brain is impacted through substance use, and we walk them through that whole process. We have the body shop for early learners in the bottom left. The girl, if you can see this, she looks like she's, by the laser pointer, someone told me that, haha. She looks like she's crying, but she's actually sneezing. And so we talk to little kids about covering your mouth when you sneeze. There's a button on Sneeze Girl that when you push her and she sneezes, green lights come off the ceiling. It looks like you have snot all over you. It's like the best pictorial representation for kids to be like, oh, I should be closing my mouth. And then we have our nutrition and fitness lab in the bottom right as well. So we've got, those are 5 of the 6 plus the STEM lab. So I think it's pretty cool to show you an actual picture. This is the general health learning lab. And in general health, we do a ton of great work about senses, about oral health, about insides of your body, how it works, why it's important. In this corner of the room, we have created a video game. So the class is split in half. Half of them are the bacteria or the virus attempting to infiltrate your body, and the other half are acting as your blood cells or different parts of your body that are trying to beat that virus. And they get to play against each other. No one has taught me how to play that game. I think they'd be worried that I wouldn't leave or something like that. So maybe someday, maybe someday. And then we have our body monitor right here in the middle. We use that in every single learning lab. It's the hallmark exhibit. These were all created for our curriculum. So we've already had that designed, and they built these exhibits for us with our input, and these are ours. These were created for Burns. They do not exist anywhere else. These are ours, which is pretty cool. This is our Human Development Theater. My favorite of all exhibit in there is this guy right here. It's our hygiene exhibit. So the the newest program Burns does is called Clean to the Core. It's 1 hour on hygiene for 4th through 8th graders. I'm smiling, right? We had a student focus group and we said, what aren't you learning? What do you need more resources on? And over again, those students said, it's really hard to be good in school and to focus on my work when my neighbor doesn't shower. When the kid next to me only uses Axe body spray and plays with soap. And so we knew we talked about hygiene all the time anyway, but 1 hour just on hygiene, head to toe. That's the shower, that's laundry. How fun for an 8th grader to know how to do laundry, right? Or 4th, really. And so for this exhibit right here, we walk them through what kind of products they would use. And a person is on this screen, and it walks through them getting ready for the day. So we talk about them being set up for a good morning through hygiene. I'm ahead of my time, but I could go on forever. Perhaps I skipped something you were super interested in. I should tell you all that we have worked with the Elizabethtown School District previously. The most recent that I could find was the 2019-20 school year. So it's been a little bit since we've been there, but it's been a few really weird years, I think we could all say. And when we were there last, we did our Sugar Shockers program, which is about the endocrine system and sugar. We did our Breaking the Silence program, all about mental health. Can't talk about mental health enough, I don't think, at this point, and how to address your mental health. And we also did our Heroin the Wake Up Call program, which is an hour on opiates and opioids. So those are the last 3 that I can find that we did, but certainly are always looking to get back into the schools and be working with anyone and everyone that we can So maybe there's a chance to do that soon, but I thought you guys would probably have an interest in that. So I'm happy to take any questions, go back to anything. What did I miss? Yes.
So I have a question. A number of years ago, you did or not you specifically, but Burns did a presentation for Rotary. I don't know if it was a leadership conference, and you had a real life model of the human colon.
Okay.
Do you still have that?
I would think we probably do, but no, again, something no one has shown me. But we probably do. In the back, we call it the back hall. So behind all those learning spaces, we have all kinds of like skeletons and organs and muscles and things. So I would imagine we do. No one has shown me that yet.
Well, it was just interesting because it's not what you think.
We're wondering what you're doing.
Well, so it was. It emphasized the length of it, like it was extremely long, and just pointing out how you do your programs. And I thought it was fascinating as an adult. So I can imagine kids would really, think that's fascinating.
Well, thank you. I do know at one point there had been a time where we had like a mock of a colon and it went around the audience and we put something through to show students, how your digestive system works. So I would imagine it exists and I will find out because now I have an interest. Yes?
How about the origin of Burns and who is Burns?
You got it, absolutely. Susan Burns was the founder of our organization, and Susie is an RN by trade. So Susie is from York. She had a super interest in health and was dedicated to her career as an RN. Her mother-in-law got ill, and she realized that if people are taught the skills ahead of an illness, ahead of a moment in life where they could make a healthy choice, they might have a different result. And so she left her career as an RN to found and start Burns Health Education. You may have heard of us previously as like the Susan P. Burns Health Education Center or Burns Health Education Center. There's been a couple iterations of names. But her role was, she founded it, she did the whole work, and truly had the vision for who and why we are what we are. So thank you, I should think of that, and I appreciate it, thank you. I'm gonna grab you and I'll get you, Sean. Yes?
How do you measure the effectiveness of your programs?
Thank you. How do we measure the effectiveness? So that's super important to what we do because otherwise we're just, I don't think we'd be as valued or proven. So if you were to come to Burns as a student, on the day of your program, you would do a pre-test and a post-test, right there day of. And so we can immediately measure how much knowledge did students gain with us today for every program. So then we can also get an overall for each program, but we do for class specific. If we're allowed access to those same students, 3 or 6 months later, we'll do another post-test. We call that a delayed post-test, so we can measure that knowledge retention. I say given access to because if we're not there, maybe that doesn't make sense for the teacher, maybe there's not enough time, and if that period falls over the summer, obviously that doesn't work. We don't have access to them in that way. During the program, students use an audience response system that they answer questions throughout the entire program, and we can anonymously measure attitudes about the topic and the behavioral intent of those students. And then each classroom teacher completes an evaluation every single time we're with them, and they provide feedback on the content, on the impact, and on the overall delivery process. We compile that all year long, and then over the summer, our team completes these really large statistical and evaluation reports, so we can see year over year the impact we're having. So I think we do a pretty good job with that. And Sean?
As the parent of middle schoolers, I have not experienced the bedroom drug simulator. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh.
How often is it offered?
Absolutely. So Sean is referring to a program that many know us for. It's called Drugs 101, What Parents Need to Know. That is a program that when we go out, we say you have to be 18 or older, there are no students in the room, and we set up a mock bedroom in the space. So it's very large. It's a mock bedroom that has all kinds of different things. We would have different kinds of t-shirts or paraphernalia or things that you can buy right online, like the Coke. They make koozies or like carriers that you can put it over your bottle or your can and it looks like Coca-Cola, but it's not. And things of that nature. So that during the program, as we're talking about different substances that are impacting the community that they might not know about or might have some experience with, we invite parents or community members to come into the bedroom and kind of explore. What don't you know about? What is interesting? What is kind of concerning? And it allows parents to kind of think about, are there already signs that maybe my student is considering experimenting substances? What kind of things can I talk to them about? That happens by request only, so really that is happening based upon the number of people who ask us to do it. I was fortunate enough to see that myself as a participant at Cedar Cliff High School 2 years ago, and I was just astonished I was personally astonished at what we do, and that's about a 2-hour program, so it's a length of time, it's a commitment, but you really leave, I think, with a very larger understanding of what's going on in the world of substances. Thank you. Yes?
From a parenting perspective, 25 years, so there's been a change in parenting style and approach.
Sure.
Have you had to adapt with that, and how do you make some situations that are challenging, I'm talking parenting challenging? Obviously, those individuals probably don't believe they need any assistance
Sure.
with what they need to do,
Sure.
with whether it be hygiene or even discipline. I don't mean to, I'm not judging
No.
anyone, but do you guys, have you modified with that? Is that in your process? Is that something that's thought of?
I think it, in some ways, yes, and in other ways, a little, I guess my answer might be a little bit differently than maybe you'd expect. So because we're aligned to the Pennsylvania State educational standards, everything we do goes back to those initial standards. So as those standards change, our curriculum has to change to follow. And so my understanding is that Pennsylvania might pass new health education standards in the next year. I'm unsure. But in terms of trends and things that are happening, we could not be presenting the same program that we were in 1995. We just couldn't. In terms of the things that have happened with even just like social media and the things that are happening online, the things that students are far more exposed to than we ever would have considered in 95 or any of those early years, we've definitely adapted and changed, because if we can't be relevant, nobody's going to want to work with us. And so our team all year long is evaluating to say, hey, the feedback on this, this specific portion of the program is not so great. How can we change it? And so our team is always open to changes based upon what we hear from the community and what's going on. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes?
I was involved in 73, 74, and I thought our district office was located there, is that right?
It used to be. So Melissa was there and right below my office, and she moved out last June. So she had been in the office, yes, you are correct. And we were for a while designated as a district special project, but I don't think that designation exists anymore, if I'm not mistaken. But you were right, she used to be there, she is not anymore.